Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Results to India's general elections to be announced on June 4. Political parties and electorate wait with bated breath. Exit polls predict the ruling NDA retaining a third term in power. Prime Minister Modi holds a series of meetings on issues related to extreme weather and associated preparedness. Meetings also put into perspective World Environment Day on June 5. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterates that Israeli conditions to end the conflict with Hamas have not changed. Targeted IDF operations continue in Gaza. Real Madrid win their 15th UEFA Champions League title. This is the 5th for coach Ancelotti. Carriaval and Vinicius Jr. score for the winners. Let's get you now the latest information on the world's largest election in India. The voting for the general election 2024 concluded on June 1, bringing an end to the last event of the democratic cycle in India. Voting for 543 constituencies. They are seats, and they have been conducted now over 7 phases in this election, which has lasted about 50 days. The Election Commission of India is all geared up for the result day, which is scheduled for June 4. All steps have been taken to ensure a transparent and a secure counting process. Counting is going to kick off at 8 in the morning, Indian Standard Time, on the 4th. The Election Commission of India on Saturday issued a handbook to poll officials ahead of the counting of votes for the recently held general elections. The counting of votes for the general election and the state assembly elections of Andhra Pradesh and Odisha and by-elections to the assembly constituencies shall be held on the 4th of June starting at 8 a.m. The Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, along with the Election Commissioners Gyanesh Kumar and Sukhbir Singh Sandhu, had reviewed the counting process, the counting preparations, the day preparations, with all Chief Electoral Officers and Returning Officers. The counting trends and results as per data entered by the RO and ARO for the Assembly constituencies and Parliamentary constituencies will be available on the ECI website as well as the voter helpline. These are both apps, and both are available on iOS and Android mobile apps. The voter helpline app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Play Store. And the poll body has also issued a handbook for the returning officers and counting agents available on the ECI website. The Election Commission of India has provided central forces to prevent any post-poll violence based on assessment provided by the states and the central observers. Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal have been provided with security forces for 15 days after the counting. And Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh have also been provided security forces for 2 days after counting. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has held a meeting to review the post-cyclone situation, especially in relation to states of the Northeast. Prime Minister is holding 7 meetings. This is on June 2. And these meetings, they are being held on a wide range of issues. The Prime Minister will review the heat wave situation in the country. The Prime Minister is also holding a meeting to review the preparations to celebrate World Environment Day, and this is so that the message can go across. and the Prime Minister will also hold a long brainstorming session to review an agenda for a 100 days program. And DD India correspondent Arun Sharma is joining us on the phone line with more on these stories. Arun, what are the outcomes of these review meetings?
Well, in a series of meetings, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to chair 7 important meetings today from wide range of topics. And of course, as of now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has held the meeting related to Cyclone Remal and the impact of Cyclone Remal, and he has reviewed this entire meeting. Well, often we have seen that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's focus has been clear on the fact that how can the rescue operation, the relief operation primarily can be ensured to the people who are living in the shelters. How can, number two, how can primarily there be a state and center coordination as far as these relief operations are concerned? We already know this fact, Mark, that the SDRF teams, NDRF team are already deployed there. The local administration is ensuring that how can, people can be provided with the shelter in the northeastern part of India. And also yesterday, the Prime Minister primarily announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees from PMNRF fund to the next of kin who of the deceased due to the impact of the cyclone Remal. Now, importantly, we know this fact that the focus of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also on the fact that how can the physical connectivity can be ensured, because often we have seen that post the cyclonic impact, the physical connectivity, the connectivity primarily gets distorted, and that the prime focus is that, and even the local administration is ensuring that how can the restoration of the connectivity, the physical connectivity specifically can be restored as soon as possible, and of course, how can the essentials and necessary items can be provided to the people who are living in shelter. There are various people who have moved to the higher parts in the altitude to safeguard themselves. And of course, people who are living in these areas, the tough terrains of northeastern part of the country, how can the necessary and essential items can be provided to them? That's the clear focus. Of course, the idea of the meeting is that a comprehensive review was given to the Prime Minister Modi. And of course, how can the center and state work together in coordination to provide, immediate and relief operations can be conducted? How can essentials and necessary items can be provided to the people there was top on the agenda.
Also, Arun, I mean, apart from Cyclone Remal and the floods in Assam, there's also the concern of heat waves in the northern part of the country, which we've all felt. And the Prime Minister is also putting into context, the messages for World Environment Day.
So, Mark, absolutely. In a series of meetings today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's focus is on 2 important aspects. Number 1 is on the environmental aspect. That includes how to celebrate World Environment Day, and of course, how can the impact of heat wave, can be minimized, how prepared we are, and of course, he'll be reviewing all this aspect. That's an environmental category. And second, of course, is economic angle. That means what will be the agenda for 100 days once he forms the government. So on that aspect also, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will chair an important meeting. But as far as the question is concerned related to environment, yes, of course, heat wave, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be chairing an important meeting related to heat wave, because we know this fact that the temperatures are soaring high, and we have witnessed a lot of cases related to heat strokes. Several deaths have been seen in various parts of our country because of the high and soaring temperature. So yes, of course, how geared up the hospital infrastructure is, how can immediate health can be or aid can be provided to the people who are suffering from heat stroke, and of course, awareness programs are being also conducted by the medical fraternity as well, and of course the government of India as well, and various departments of government of India as to what precautions should one take as far as the heat is concerned. So in that context, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be reviewing or chairing the meeting, an important meeting which is related to heat wave in the country.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Arun Sharma, for joining us. Arun covers the Prime Minister's office for DD India and DD News. Now, the counting of votes is underway for the Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh Assembly polls of 2024. Security forces have been deployed to avoid untoward incidents during the computation of the votes. In Sikkim, the voting to elect 32 members took place this happened on April 19 in the first phase of polling. Now, as of 2 p.m. IST, the incumbent Sikkim Krantikari Morcha. It has crossed the halfway mark, winning 26 seats while leading in 5 more seats. The opposition Sikkim Democratic Front has won only 1 seat in the state. In Arunachal Pradesh, of the 60 seats there, the BJP has crossed the halfway mark now and has 44 wins and leads in 2 seats. So the BJP ally, Congrad Sangma's National People's Party, also has won 5 more seats in the state assembly. Festivities erupted outside the BJP party office in Itanagar in Arunachal Pradesh to celebrate the BJP's victory in the state. New Delhi is all set to get a respite from the weather-related torments that are taking place. The weather department has predicted light intensity rain, that's a drizzle, and a cloudy day also with gusty winds in the evening. It brought some respite on Saturday as well, though the prevailing heat wave conditions are likely to abate gradually over the next 2 days. The maximum temperature may settle below 45 degrees Celsius after a long time. The heat wave conditions in the city are expected to reduce in the coming days. The India Weather Department has also issued an alert for heavy rainfall at isolated places over north and south coastal Andhra Pradesh, Rayalaseema and Yanam, which is in southern India, for 5 days. The death toll in the floods in Assam, this toll has now increased to 15 people and 3 more people have lost their lives in this calamity as the number of affected population went up to over 6 lakh. 3 major rivers, Koppili, Barak and Kushiara, they are flowing above the danger level. And among the other severely hit districts, they are Hojai and Kachar. More than 41,000 displaced people have taken shelter in 187 relief camps, which have been set up in various districts. The NDRF, the SDRF and local administration and the people are engaged in carrying out rescue and relief operations. Road and rail communication too in several parts of the state has remained disrupted following incessant rainfall in the aftermath of Cyclone Rimal. And Subina Roy is now joining us from Guwahati in Assam with an update. Subina, what is the current situation regarding evacuations? We were talking, even the Prime Minister is reviewing the situation. People have been moved to higher ground. What's the current situation?
Right, Mark. In the aftermath of the cyclone Remal, there has been a havoc of incessant rains in the northeast, and the pathway has been through southern part of the northeastern state. So the southern part of Assam has been affected. So the most affected districts are Hailakandi, Nagaon and Dima Hasao. And the river, which is this is the large south bank tributary of Brahmaputra and has been largely affected. And the areas around this, on the banks of this river have been affected. Now, to talk about the rescue operations, the NDRF and SDRF are continuing on a 24/7 basis to rescue the people from moving them out from the low-lying areas to a higher elevated areas, as you had already said, and the PM is also reviewing the situation. You know, the main problem is of road connectivity, which has been disrupted, which means that the supply of essential items have been disrupted to these remote areas, especially when we talk about southern part of Assam, which is an ecologically sensitive area. And recently, the National Highway 6, a portion of that national highway was broken, which leads to southern Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Manipur. So rescue operations are on, Mark, and the NDRF team are working day and night to provide the essential items to the in the shelter areas, and relief camps are full. Around 36,000 people are residing. Right.
Thanks very much, Subina Roy, for giving us that update. Now, the southern Indian state of Telangana, it's marking its formation day today. The state came into force, in fact, it came into being on the 2nd of June in 2014. The President of India, Draupadi Murmu, sent greetings to the people of Telangana with a statement on X, and she highlighted the state's rich heritage. She prayed for lasting prosperity. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar also extended greetings to the people of Telangana and wished for continued prosperity and newer heights of development. Prime Minister Modi took to X as well to wish the people of Telangana. He said that every Indian takes great pride in the state's contribution to national progress and that the government remains committed towards their development. In a tragic incident, at least 7 members of a family, including 5 children, drowned after a boat that they were traveling in capsized in central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. The incident occurred on Saturday in Shogpur, which is, in fact, when this boat was carrying about 10 people and it capsized in the Seep River, which is a tributary of the Chambal River. Now, the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar and the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh have expressed grief over the loss of lives, and they wished a speedy recovery to the injured. India has sent humanitarian assistance to Cuba. India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal, in a social media post, said a consignment of 90 tons of 9 made-in-India active pharmaceutical ingredients, or APIs, left the Mundra port for Cuba on June 2. The APIs will support manufacture of essential medicines, and the assistance reaffirms India's role as the pharmacy of the world and underlines India's commitment to India-Cuba ties. Still to come here on DD India Live. Mexicans head to the polls for presidential elections, and both the main candidates are women. China says a Philippine vessel in the South China Sea last month had carried guns on deck. And in sports, Pragnananda has done well. He's stunned the world number 2 Fabiana Caruana, and he'd also beaten Magnus Carlsen earlier, who's the world number 1. And he's now 10th in the world rankings, but he's currently 3rd in the Norway Chess, which is currently the tournament that he's playing.
After a grueling campaign, after exhausting polling spanning 7 phases, the stage is set for the counting day, the grand finale of the largest electoral exercise ever. DD India is all decked up and ready, counting of votes for India's general elections. Accurate and fast results, in-depth analysis with experts and reporters everywhere. Only on DD India, 4th June, 6 a.m. onwards.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. India's Prime Minister also chaired a meeting to review the heat wave-related situation in the country. Earlier in the bulletin, we had spoken to you about the Prime Minister reviewing the aftermath of the cyclone Rimal and the flood-affected areas of Assam. Prime Minister has moved on to the heat-related issues and talking about the movement of the monsoons. These meetings are a series of meetings that the Prime Minister has been taking at his office. Now, updates also on the Israel-Hamas conflict and Gaza conflict mediators. On Saturday, they urged Israel and Hamas to finalize a ceasefire and hostage release deal. The mediators from Qatar, Egypt and the United States have called on both Hamas and Israel to conclude an agreement that embodies the principles which have been outlined by the US President. The 3 countries in a joint statement said that these principles bring together the demands of all the parties in a deal that serves multiple interests and would bring immediate relief to the people of Gaza and to the hostages and their families. The statement further read that the agreement provides a roadmap for a permanent ceasefire and the ending of the crisis. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday reiterated that the conditions to end the conflict in Hamas have not changed. In a post on the social media site X, the Israeli Prime Minister's office said, and I quote, "Israel's conditions for ending the war have not changed. The destruction of Hamas military and governing capabilities, the freeing of all hostages, and ensuring that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. Under the proposal, Israel will continue to insist these conditions are met before a permanent ceasefire is put in place. The notion that Israel will agree to a permanent ceasefire before these conditions are fulfilled is a non-starter," unquote. Thousands of Israelis have again taken to the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday, putting pressure on their government and the Prime Minister Netanyahu to strike a deal with Hamas that will see the release of the Israeli captives held in Gaza. A large banner was carried by some members of the crowd pleading with the US President Joe Biden to save the captives by exerting pressure on Netanyahu to accept a ceasefire deal. Among those in the rally was Avi Ofer, who has been on a hunger strike for 28 days. Now, these protests have been occurring every weekend for months, with demonstrators also calling for early elections. China's defense chief Dong Jun warned that prospects of a peaceful reunification of Taiwan were being eroded and promised to ensure the island would never gain independence. He was addressing the Shangri-La Dialogue Conference on Sunday. China views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory over the strong objections of the government in Taipei, and last month staged war games around the island in anger at the May 20 inauguration of President Lai Ching-te, who Beijing calls a separatist. Dong said that Taiwan was the core of the issues of China, and Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party is incrementally pursuing separatism and is bent on erasing Chinese identity. That's the Chinese view. He accused the foreign powers of interfering in domestic issues and emboldening Taipei's separatists. Dong has called the arms sale a test of China's red lines. The Chinese state broadcaster CCTV on Sunday said that the personnel on board a Chinese vessel in the South China Sea had last month carried guns on deck. China's Coast Guard had said that the incident occurred near the Second Thomas Shoal, which is an area of the South China Sea where Beijing and Manila have had an escalating maritime dispute for months. China has accused the Philippines of trespassing and also of treachery, while Manila has slammed Beijing for what it says is a policy of aggression and dangerous maneuvering inside its exclusive economic zone. Ukraine's President Zelensky, during the Shangri-La Dialogue on Sunday, said that 106 countries and organizations had so far agreed to participate in a summit in Switzerland aimed at bringing peace to his conflict-torn nation. Zelensky thanked countries including the US, Germany and the Netherlands for their military assistance, particularly with air defense systems amid renewed attacks from Russian forces. Heads of state, senior ministers and officials from 55 countries are participating in the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. Mexicans are heading to the polls on Sunday in a historic presidential election in which the two main candidates are women, ushering in a new political era for Latin America's second-largest economy. Mexico's next president will inherit a country with lagging economic growth and also an elevated rate of violent crime, especially related to drug trafficking at the hands of the country's powerful cartels. South Africa's Election Commission expected to announce the final results of the country's general election anytime soon, and the ruling African National Congress Party is expected to form a coalition government after the party has lost its 30-year majority. Now, as of Sunday morning, the ANC party had received around 40% of the votes, according to results from 99.89% of the polling stations, while the Democratic Alliance received around 21% of the vote. A coalition government marks an unprecedented prospect for the ruling ANC, which ends 3 decades of its dominance since it freed the country from apartheid. Real Madrid were crowned kings of Europe for a record-extending 15th time in a 2-0 win over Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final on Saturday. Now, the defender Carvajal had headed in from Toni Kroos's corner on the 74th minute before Vinicius had fired home, extending Madrid's record as the most successful club in the competition's history. Going as huge favourites into the game, the Spanish side were outplayed for long periods but broke Dortmund's resistance with late goals. It was hard on the German side, who missed several good half chances in the first half, and also, the best of which saw Niklas Füllkrug hit the post from close range. So unlucky there, Borussia Dortmund. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live, but let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and the world on our app. The DD India app is available both in Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and you can get it. That's all we have in this edition. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar.